Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the Conscious Investor. I am so happy to have you here, and I am even happier to be featuring this week Alex Cunningham. Alex and I met because, well, we have a mutual friend, Lindsay, and Lindsay is also a podcaster and a friend of mine. And she said, Julie, you have to meet Alex. And I said, okay, I got to meet Alex. Started listening to his podcast, and I was blown away because it's outside of my wheelhouse. And I think it's really important to step outside of your own comfort zone and what your world is, and to meet other people and to learn other things. And so this week, I am so excited to be featuring Alex Cunningham. Alex, thank you, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, like you said, Lindsay is amazing for putting us in contact. I mean, she has a great circle of friends, and I'm just glad I was able to meet you.
It is. Now, if you wouldn't mind, one, I love your podcast because it's about stocks. And I try to listen to podcasts on things that I don't understand. And stocks happens to be something that I really don't understand. And you make it very understandable and relatable and give so many amazing tips. I cannot believe the tips that you give away, just as to, hey, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm not telling you, you have to do this, but I love what you are doing over on your podcast and the ease with which you teach everybody in the world. If you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about what are you doing? What do you do in life? Who are you?
So I am a father of two. First of all, that immediately bumped to the top of the list when I had them. So I'm a father of two, and I'm an athletic trainer by trade. So during the day, I work at a high school and I cover all of their medical needs. So I do acute injuries, prevention, rehabilitation, documentation, education, all that, everything that has to do with sports. That's my day job. And I should say that's my evening job. My day job is looking at charts, trading, creating the content, particularly the podcast, the Market Adventures podcast. And yeah, I'm just a regular guy. And I think that's probably what makes it so relatable.
I love that. And honestly, I knew about, Market Adventures. I knew about the stocks, but I didn't know that you had this other, I feel like you're a superhero now. By day or by night, I go by.
Well, it's interesting because I bring both worlds wherever I go. So when I'm at school, I have my laptop open and I have some kind of stock market content coming from it. So the kids at the school know that I participate in the stock market. It opens a lot of communication. If you can just help one more person get interested, I feel like I've made an impact. And the kids are the easiest people to talk to.
That's amazing. And I couldn't agree more, with influencing people just by nature of, hey, did you know about this? And you don't have to, you don't have to shove it down anybody's throat. It's just, hey, this is it. It's just sitting here.
Yeah, absolutely. And kids are so inquisitive.
So what kind of questions do they ask?
The first two questions that they ask is, you trade stocks? And I should say it's changed now, because now Dogecoin is the second question. It's something to do with some kind of crypto is the second question, or GameStop. And then it's, can you actually make money trading stocks? And I think those are like the core questions everyone asks, because that's what everyone is interested in, is the money. Show me the money. Show me the money.
Right.
And I think kids are no different. And then once they get past that, it just, well, how do you do it? What do you look for? Things like that. Once you get a little deeper.
Next thing you know, you're going to be teaching a little mini course to high schoolers.
I would love to. So if in the future I could just trade, that's the ultimate goal, trade stocks and educate, and also coach. So I love track and field. It's a passion of mine. If I can coach and teach trading and teach investing, that would be like the best thing in the world for me, because I think more normal people like you and me should be interested in it. It's a lifeblood of living comfortably and enjoying your life is investing.
It's interesting. I feel the same way. And one little micro niche of demographics, wow, I'm tripping over my words, but one demographic that I see is women investors and women who particularly who maybe manage their homes, but they manage the finances, but they don't, it stops at the end of the family budget. Oh, we've paid the bills and we put money into savings, instead of saying, hey, I am the CFO of my family and I need to understand how to grow my family's investments and how to grow this money rather than just having it sitting over here in savings. So that's like a complementary vein to what you're describing right there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And every time I speak with women in general, particularly my mom and my girlfriend, I say, like you guys or you gals will be so much better. I mean, Wall Street is mostly, older white men, but it really should be women because you guys have the patience to prevail at stocks, right? Stocks is very emotional. I'd say 90% is mental and emotions. 10% is actually looking at the screen. So when it comes to just sitting there and being patient and waiting and being very calculated, women are superior. I don't care what anybody says, superior in all aspects when it comes to the vital parts of being an investor, whether it be real estate or stocks. But I think it's just I don't know if it's a fear or I don't know if it's just like or taboo, maybe the word. It's worry about this and not worry about that. But I think I push as many as I can. Hey, learn about this, learn about this, learn about this. Because ultimately, if it was up to me, I would be the one changing diapers and making food because it would just work so much better.
Right. Well, how did you get into trading stocks? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Okay, so I mean, it kind of plays on what I just said. Like, I like being home. Like, I would love to drop the kids off to daycare or to school, and, put the backpack on them and put them on the bus. I love that. I love being home. And for me, investing seemed like the best opportunity to reclaim some of that time. So for me, it seemed to get started in something right away, stocks seemed like the quickest way to get started in some kind of investing. I mean, there are other ways, like e-commerce, real estate, things like that. But to me, I've
Are
always
you
loved
enjoying this
numbers.
episode?
I've
Where would your
always
life
loved
be
the
without content
game,
like this?
whether it
Help
be
spread the word by
sports when I
sharing
ran
on your
track in
social
college,
platforms. And
or
please tag
Uno.
me,
If you and
Happy
I get
Julie
to an Uno
Holly.
match, it's going to be a screaming match eventually.
It will be a screaming match.
So like stocks, it jumped out at me, and then once I got interested, it became kind of like a game that I wanted to not necessarily figure out, because you can't figure it out, but just get a little bit better every single day. And stocks been the best opportunity for me.
Okay, once and this could be an incorrect stereotype, but when I think about stocks, the barrier to entry also seems lower than when I think stereotypically of real estate. Oh, well, real estate, I have to have a $50,000 minimum to invest, or, if I'm going into a big investment. But when I think about stocks or some crypto, wow, I could just throw $500 and get started at this. Is that an incorrect stereotype, or is that kind of what leads some people more that route, you think?
I think you're right. I think you're right. Absolutely. I mean, you're more in the real estate space than I am, but in both avenues, you can create money out of nothing, right? You can start very small and get big. I think for some people, it's hard to wrap your head around the real estate way of turning 500 into 5,000 versus the stock way of turning 500 to 5,000, right? And I think, like I said, the lower barrier to entry is absolutely an attractive part of the stock market. But I think there definitely are better opportunities out there. But I think for the beginner who's just like, how can I get started tomorrow? I think stocks are kind of the best avenue for them.
So how did you get started? Did someone mentor you? Did you just, decide one day, I like numbers, I'm going to just start trading stocks,
Yeah. I love, I've always liked money. So I started years ago just with like a Robinhood, or not Robinhood, how the hell, TD Ameritrade. And started very young, bought a stock here, bought an option here, wasn't very good, lost money. I actually bought something for, it was a Peloton call option for 2022. And I bought a $60 call option and I spent $60 on it, I think, something around that number. And if I had just waited, who knew COVID was going to happen? Nobody did. But if I had waited, that same $60 would have turned into like, I think it was like 3 or 4 grand, right? So for me, part of the lesson along the way when I first started was I didn't have the patience. And then again, probably 2019, I started and I jumped back into it. And I was with a friend who was at the gym I was working at. And every day I saw him on his phone looking at stocks. And I was like, you know, I used to trade. Maybe I'll start again. And he and I, every day, we looked at each other at 9:30. We both got our phones and we were looking and watching. And we were just, it was kind of like a fun thing. And then when he left, I just started going down the rabbit hole, you know, reading books again, reading bibliographies, watching YouTube videos, and then learning by fire, right? As it is, right? Putting in money, losing, making some, losing some, right? And to this point, I still today, right? I had an account that I blew up probably 2 weeks ago. I blew up an entire option trading account, went from X number to zero, took a week off, and then I'm back at it again this week. And I think I don't think the learning process never really stops. But it's been a cool couple of years learning.
That is really cool. And that's interesting that someone else, that buddy that you were working with at the gym, that he had that influence over you. And then I'm thinking about you working with, at the school system, working around athletes and students, and you have your computer open and they're having that curious moment themselves. So it's interesting how we all just have this ripple effect in life out to others.
Yeah, and it should be more positive like that, right? Because we have so many, like my son bites his nails, and I'm like, man, stop biting your nails. Where the hell did he get that from? And I'm driving, and I realize I'm driving, I'm biting my nails, and I'm like, he's in the back seat. He probably looks in the rearview mirror and sees me biting my nails. Now I knows where he gets it from. So we're all having an impact on our surroundings every single day. If we can choose the ones we have, though, some of them we can be very conscious of. And for me, when I'm around kids, I try to be as very conscious about how I'm impacting them subconsciously. And for me, the stock market is something that I would love to have kids, or finance in general. I would love to have kids start to pick up subconsciously and get more curious about.
We had a friend just mailed my kids Smart Kid, Rich Kid. I think that's it, by Robert Kiyosaki. It's a kid's version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, apparently. So it'll be interesting, but changing that framework about how young people think and interact and engage money. By the way, this is not a kid's book. I recommend a lot of kids' books because I used to be an elementary school teacher and I love kids' books, but this is not a picture book. This is a book. So I guess I'm going to have to go through this with the kids, myself. But we'll have to do a family read. Yeah. Right.
That's interesting. I read that book too, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's fun because that book had pictures. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the adult version, had pictures. So it's interesting. His kids' book wouldn't.
Yeah, it has a few diagrams. I've thumbed through it. They just got it this morning. So I thumbed through it a little bit, and there's some diagrams here and there, but it feels more like a book. Yeah. Definitely. Well, when you think about, where you're going, what are you striving to accomplish maybe over the next, 3-5 years through your stock investing?
Well, in 3 to 5 years, I would love to be, I don't want to say completely free, but I would love to increase that level of control over time, where ultimately is time, right? Because that's what we're all fighting for. But how I can spend that time. So I spent a lot of time investing in in my children. So I have two different investing accounts for them, stock portfolios for both of them. Kind of nudging my mom to get her stock portfolio. So now I help her with her stock portfolio. And then putting money away every single week to where I can manage paying the bills, but also I have to, every paycheck, money has to come out to go into these various portfolios. So in 3 to 5 years, my son will be 7. Yes, 7, if I'm doing the math right. So for me, the goal is to have something that he can now look at and say, wow, that's mine, and then get him interested in, okay, how do I learn to invest? I mean, at 7 years old, he can only do so much, but to start piquing his interest in understanding finance. So in 3 years, I want my mom to not have to worry about what she's gonna do. Like I heard a story of somebody having to move in with family at an old age, and how am I gonna be able to afford this, afford that? I don't want her to worry about that. So regardless, I'm gonna be giving part of whatever money I make to her, because you'll never be able to repay a mom. It's impossible. I've done the math. You can't. But if I can help her be able to generate passive income, whether through real estate or through stocks, I never have to worry about her worrying. And I guess for me in 3 to 5 years, after I'm done worried about everybody else, I would love to just travel. I know it's super cliche, but I was eating ice cream at a Baskin Robbins last night, and my girlfriend and I were sitting in front of an Italian restaurant, which is right next door to the Baskin Robbins. And I'm looking at the little Italian guy holding the pizza, and I'm like, man, I want to go there. Like, I wish I could just say, hey, let's get on a plane right now. Let's go to the airport, get on the next flight, and let's go to Italy, London, Dubai, Tokyo. Let's just go. The stock market and just investing in general gives you that ability, right? To just go. So that's
do it from anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere in the world, right? So in 3 to 5 years, I won't be there, but I'd like to be a little closer.
I would like to invite you, and I'm putting this out there to the whole world. It's not a challenge. It's an invitation for the two of us to partner on a children's book.
Yes.
We both have a passion to serve kids in some capacity. And so I would say, hey, I think we should collaborate and create a kids book over the next few years on how to invest in general and an investment mindset.
I would love that. My children have so many books. Half of them have become food and chewing material. But I look through these books and I would love to be someone who could do that, because it's so impactful. That's the first thing that these kids see, and they're trying to actively interpret. And if we could be on the forefront of that, that'd be dope. I'd love that.
Wouldn't it? I agree. I think it'd be amazing. And I think part of it is also just like teaching these concepts in really simple ways, and not even necessarily teaching all the vocabulary. Is just teaching this understanding of how things work, through their normal kid lens.
Yeah. Being able to speak somebody else's language you're an educator, right? Is the key to education. It's not so much what it is you're talking about, is how do they interpret it?
Yeah, definitely. I love it. I love what you were doing. I love how, you're present where you're present, and you're influencing and having this ripple effect on, all these high schoolers, on your own family, and your heart. By the way, if you're listening to this, Alex's heart comes through over on his podcast. You need to be listening to it, because honestly, it's the most interesting stock podcast I've ever listened to, because you're so just down to earth and real. It doesn't feel out of my reach or realm. And we know I'm not involved in stocks. So it's like, I understand what you're talking about. And I don't even know how I understand it. It's how you present the information. So it's extraordinary.
I appreciate it. I think it helps I didn't go to school for finance, so I'm not bombarded with, spell checking myself when I'm talking. Right. It's just like, how would I understand this? And let me write that down. And I got the ums and the ahs and the in there, but that's how regular people talk.
It is. It is exactly. Well, as we wrap this up, this part of our week-long marathon with Alex, remember, our listeners, you're going to come back, and the next couple episodes are going to be more in depth on a couple of different topics with Alex. So you don't want to miss those. But in the meantime, Alex, how can listeners connect with you?
So the easiest way is to go to marketadventures.co. It's a new website that I've been working on. There you can find the podcast. You can find a completely free Discord where I talk about trading in the Discord and anyone can talk to me. You can find all the socials on there, and I also do a blog. I would say it's monthly, even though I do publish several during a month, but there's at least one coming out a month. But everything's on marketadventures.co.
So go check that out. And do you also coach people in some capacity?
I do. I don't call it coaching though. So for example, a guy named Carlos messaged me on Twitter, and he sent me enough that I had to scroll of messages telling me, oh, I'm looking at this stock, that stock, I'm opening a portfolio. And I simply pulled up all the stocks he was talking about and just gave my thoughts on each one. No advice, but my thoughts on, I personally wouldn't have this stock in there because it's this, and I like this stock. And that's just because he asked. I don't call it coaching. If you have a question, I'm going to answer it because it's what I would want if I asked somebody else a question.
I love it. Somebody said, I don't give advice, but I give my opinion. Yeah. It sounds like you have that same philosophy. You know, advice means one thing, but I can always share my opinion on something.
Absolutely, because nobody's infallible. You know, nobody's infallible.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Alex. And I am looking forward to the next segments to come. Everyone listening, until next time, live big, love bigger. A lot of people missed out on my recent offering because they simply weren't on my investor list. Being on my newsletter list won't provide you with access to the deals I have. This is because 506B regulations require you and I actually discuss your investment goals before I can show you the deals I have. If you're on the fence about investing in apartments, schedule a call today at 3keysinvestments.com. If you think you're new, so you don't want to be on an investor list, you're missing out on opportunities to refine your ability to review offerings because you simply will never see them. So head over to 3 Keys Investments and schedule a call.